Hey everybody, so we are going to be covering a couple of elements in this video recording for Standard 2. We're going to be doing 2A and 2B. And 2A is going to be talking about the cultural diversity in the colonies. And based on the fact that the colonists that came over were from different countries, they had different religious beliefs, they had different ethnic backgrounds, different values and traditions. We're going to see the impact of that in the colonies. And then the other thing we're going to talk about in 2B is talking about in the transatlantic trade system, that third leg, the Middle Passage. We're going to describe it, and we're going to look at the growth of the African population as slaves in the colonies and what kind of contributions that they brought over with them, what kind of cultural and traditions and things like that that we still enjoy today that was originally brought over by slaves. So just looking at this picture, this was a review from Standard 1. I just wanted you to kind of pay attention to the different scenes that you see and think about what it brings to mind. It should bring different colonial regions to mind, what their economies were based off of, different religions, relationships with the Native Americans. So if you can think of several things when you look at these pictures from Standard 1, then I think you've done pretty well. If none of this rings a bell, then I would suggest you go back and watch the recordings for Standard 1. We are going to watch a video in class, Jamestown Colony. If you look under, I think it's Unit 1, Standard 2, you will see a file, okay, or a folder that says Standard 2 video links, and you can find this video in there to watch on your own time. I wanted to talk about push and pull factors. Push and pull factors are basically things that either forced the English colonies to leave England or the things that drew them to America. So push factors for the colonists forcing them to leave England would have been things like religious persecution or civil wars or overpopulation or lack of jobs or poor income. All of those things would have been situations that would have pushed them away from England. And then things that would have pulled them to America would be things like plentiful land, religious freedom, the ability to start your life over, right? Start fresh, different things like that. So when you're thinking of push and pull factors, that's the sort of situation that I want you to be considering. Just a clip here that I'm going to read in class about what it was like in Jamestown and just the situation. The first group of settlers that came over to Jamestown, over half of them died. The conditions were deplorable. They pretty much starved to death. They didn't know how to take care of themselves. So if you want to pause this and take a minute to read it, it'll give you a good idea of what it was like. And they referred to that first winter as the starving time. Just to show you the colonial diversity, the different places that the colonists came from. And as you're looking at the map here on the left and then looking at the pie chart, you can see the different areas. I would say that the map on the left is probably fairly early because you'll notice that the majority, I was looking at, no, they're not the same colors. I was looking to see where it shows most of the slaves. Okay, so you can see Virginia and then a few in North Carolina, lots in South Carolina, okay, the purple. But the most culturally diverse colonial region, and we talked about this in Standard 1, would be the mid-Atlantic colonies, right? They were first established by the Dutch and then annexed by the English, but you have lots of different immigrants from lots of different countries, and the majority of those are going to settle in those mid-Atlantic colonies. So based on the fact that the colonies were so culturally diverse, you're going to see a lot of different things, right? The way they build their houses are going to look different, right? The different crafts and skills that they bring over. Some were silversmiths, some were iron workers. Some of them, did lots of different things. Some of them were farmers. But because those immigrants that came over, it's such a culturally diverse group, that's why all the houses aren't going to look the same and everybody's not going to do the same kind of job. The religious diversity in the colonies. We talked about this a little in Standard 1. We talked about how in the New England colonies, it was mainly the Puritans, right? And then in the middle colonies, that was the most religiously tolerant areas, whereas those middle colonies, New England would be the most religiously intolerant. And then the southern colonies we talked about, they had religion in the southern colonies, but what we talked about in class was that the southern colonies were basically established for economic reasons as instead of religious reasons. So if you look at the chart on the left, you can see when we say the word Christian, we're talking about Catholics and Protestants. That's basically the two choices. And then later on, we're going to see those different religious groups like Anglicans and Puritans and Quakers, and then much later on, Baptists and Methodists and Lutheran and all of that. So lots of religious diversity. So when you are looking at this now, you should be able to go back and answer these questions about which colonies were the most intolerant, the ones that were the most tolerant, which ones were founded for religious reasons primarily, and you should be able to answer those by just the previous information. Okay, we're going to stop here and I'm going to make another video for 2B.